The main supply route to central Bosnia was closed. The UN, which is supposed to open the roads, was keeping them closed to its own traffic. By mid-afternoon it was half open, and we were trying to help a French aid convoy through, but there were still reports of heavy fighting ahead. Is it safe to go through?
I'll just find out for you.
Thanks very much. It was not, for the British had withdrawn into defensive positions at their camp in Gornji Vakuf. It was the fiercest fighting they had seen since coming to Bosnia. The Muslims had started at dawn with infantry and artillery attacks on Croatian positions north and east of the town. The Croats responded by threatening to level Gornji Vakuf unless the Muslims observed the ceasefire. They told the UN they would give them 5 minutes warning of their expected artillery barrage. By chance, we arrived at the British camp at the very moment of that warning. The troops were not directly in the line of fire, but were in the target area, and they did not enjoy the ordeal.
Bastards.
What happened?
Someone's just pressed the panic button.
In half an hour, some 10 tank and artillery rounds fell on the town, the closest about 300 yards from the camp.
He said that he was going to say, that's a tank firing. They've got a tank up on there. If you look right on the middle ground, middle high feature, they've got a tank firing from there. There's also fighting going on behind this middle high ground.
The Muslims captured at least 2 villages on the edge of Gornji Vakuf. The Croats and the centre of the town took a beating. For the British, who sent out just 1 patrol in the course of the day, it was an object lesson in the limits of their mandate. The artillery fire continued for much of the afternoon, and there was nothing the UN could do about it except take cover and wait for the storm to blow over. Martin Bell, BBC News, Gornji Vakuf, Bosnia. Gornji Vakuf, evenly split between Muslims and Croats, is now itself their battlefield. The people are not so much living as hiding here. The main supply route through town is closed except during lulls in the fighting, increasingly rare. At this point, the British UN troops, men of the Prince of Wales's own regiment, are trying to achieve a ceasefire. There's a reason for it. As the Croats retreat, 100 of their civilians are trapped by the fighting. The UN can't assist in ethnic cleansing, but it can save the lives of old men, women and children, staggering under such burdens as they can carry. All the rest of their belongings they've left behind, and this is their last chance of rescue.
Dark is going to fall fairly soon, and Muslims fire on Yasser factory at night time.
She is leaving against her will, having left her son behind. There's room for only 35 of the 100 on board the battle bus, the improvised Croatian ambulance. The rest will have to make it under fire and at night across no man's land. For the British troops escorting and accompanying, it's the most dangerous UN duty ever. This was the British base at Gornji today. Croats one side of it, Muslims the other.
Again.
The troops not directly in the line of fire, but close enough to it, were being visited by General Sir Peter Inge, Chief of the General Staff. His tour was punctuated by the sounds of battle. He spoke about possible UN retaliation.
I think the rules of engagement allow us to respond. If you're referring to the use of air, of course, that is a major decision which someone would have to decide if they can use. But that option remains a possibility, of course.
There are some important decisions to be taken about the British deployment, the number of soldiers, the duration and the role. Those decisions have to be taken soon. Martin Bell, BBC News, Gornji Vakuf, Bosnia. For the British troops based in the town of Gornji Vakuf, the quiet times are over. In the last 2 days, the front line has come to them. These pictures, acquired through army sources, show something of the strain the soldiers have been under, venturing out on armoured patrol to pick up the pieces, rescue civilians, try and broker a ceasefire.
He's asking what time we agreed.
Now. And the second thing we agreed is that the mortar's got to stop firing, otherwise we won't evacuate the civilians.
That's the peculiar horror of this war. Civilians are in the front line with almost no one but the UN to help them.
There's the Muslim dressing station, which is actually a house which is doubled up as a hospital. Which shows what bugger all facilities the Muslims have got.
The journey to the dressing station, like all journeys in the town, is hazardous. The facilities are a bed, a nurse, a local anaesthetic and a kitchen knife for amputations. The casualties keep coming, and across town the retreating Croats are perhaps even harder pressed. Who is watching the Muslims? Asks the local commander. They're attacking all of the time. Look down there. Croatian houses are burning. Everything that's burning is Croatian. For 2 days and 2 nights now, the battle has raged around the United Nations troops in Gornji Vakuf. In that time, the Muslims have captured all but the last Croatian stronghold in the town. At night, the British can only watch and listen. There has been no United Nations duty like it. Martin Bell, BBC News, Gornji Vakuf, Bosnia. This is Martin Bell for ABC News in Gornji Vakuf, Bosnia. The battle started late yesterday. Croats one side of the UN camp, Muslims the other, and the British were in the middle. It was mostly crossfire, but they were also targeted.
Right, look left, Liz. Yeah. Right, just watch that ridge line there, you see the tracer coming from there.
So it's not our man firing?
No, that wasn't him.
The UN troops fired back at least 4 times, but mostly they were taking evasive action, and the shooting continued late into the night. Some of it was sniper fire close to the British, some of it was tracer, and some of it was artillery, causing the camp to go onto red alert. This for the second time in 2 days. The UN troops went under hard cover, and there were no casualties, despite the 127 rounds that fell on or around the town. The fighting continued this morning, but the battle had been won and lost between midnight and 3 a.m. In that time, the Muslims had seized control of 2 villages, Krupa and Bistrica, formerly in Croat hands. These places were devastated, but the Muslims were celebrating the victory of their army, and their message needed no translation.
Fascisti, caputo!
Apart from the winners and a solitary looter, the streets were all but deserted. The Croatian forces had fled to their stronghold in Prozor, 8 miles away. Their headquarters was abandoned, their cause was lost, and the tide of battle had blocked the main supply road. The armour can find a way through, but the aid convoys can't. This is the end of the second week of the battle for Gornji Vakuf. Muslims and Croats fighting for the ruins. Thousands of civilians are still trapped here. For them, no chances of escape, no mercy flights available. At the makeshift clinic on the Muslim side, a nurse told me they had little anaesthetic, but it hardly mattered, for they had no surgeons either. The Croats today took us to their front lines, as dangerous as any in all the Bosnian wars. They've lost 150 men so far. The fighting is street to street and house to house. Muslims and Croats used to be allies against the Serbs across 800 yards of no man's land. Now they're fighting each other at a distance of 50 yards. It's the Muslims' position on the balcony opposite. Sometimes they use hand grenades. Both sides see it as a fight to the finish against the other's onslaught.
If you have courage to be honest, you must see we Croats are defenders. We are not aggressors. It's truth.
The Muslims are at least as desperate. They bury their dead at night because both their cemeteries are in the Croats' line of fire. Ismet Polic asks forgiveness for his tears. He's mourning the death of a brother killed 7 days ago. Sooner or later the stalemate will be broken. One side or the other will capture the town amid further bloodletting. The Muslims say they have lost 250 dead, mostly in the last 4 months, in what they term a jihad, a holy war, but a defensive one, for their objective is survival. Martin Bell.